Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. This
yes, I see your name now.
Dark Side of the Stream, episode 94, and it looks like it's frozen again.
Is it frozen again?
No, it's working. Okay, thank God. Well, this is
we never can get this right.
Third
94
or fourth
episodes,
time that we've actually tried
right.
to do this Dark Side of the Stream. Full disclosure again. We actually recorded this entire thing, and then after we got done, Jay looks at me and goes, "You're going to get some phone calls."
Yeah, Mike was a little heated.
So I re-listened to it, and there was a part of it where I bottom line is this: I don't ever want to make anyone feel less for any of their beliefs. As long as you don't hurt anybody else, you believe in whatever the hell you want. Regardless of my viewpoints on that. And I don't ever want to use this platform to make anyone feel less about what they believe in. So going forward, understand this today. Anytime I talk about any kind of church or any kind of stuff like this, I am directing all of my anger and hate at the FLDS Church, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is the subject of the documentary we watched this week in Dark Side of the Stream. It's called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, and it's on Netflix. So understand this. I'm just talking about the FLDS here. Nobody else, nothing else, the FLDS. Okay.
There we go.
Disclaimer.
We watch documentaries, so you don't have to. Dark Side of the Stream.
All right. So this week, of course, we talked about Keep Sweet, as I mentioned, and it tells a story about the FLDS Church, which we will get into. But before that, Jay, you think you could handle 3 wives in a house?
Well, I have a theory on the whole multiple wives thing.
Sure.
I really think that it's very hard to have one woman who is the mom, the housewife, does all that, and romantic, and the fun partner. I think that's a tough order. I think you need to have one woman who does a very good job. Awesome mom. That same awesome mom can't be the crazy party girl. It can't be. So you have to have a girlfriend as a party girl. And, so I think having a couple wives would work. But God forbid you piss them all off at once. My gosh, could you imagine the hate?
God, you're so clueless. There actually that does exist, and I'm married to her. So
you got the perfect woman.
She can.
Well, you got the unicorn.
To me, I guess
you got the unicorn.
That's how I feel. Everything that you described is all in one. There's no way I could do a threes.
Because I've gone through the ringer a few times, and it just seems like you need a couple to fill all the voids.
Yeah, well, I think
one for the romance, passion, one for the fun party, and one to be the great mother.
You should be able to get all of that in one.
Maybe I'm looking in the wrong holes.
Okay, next subject here. Yeah, no, that's God, you and your choice of words. Talk about getting call-ins. All right, so this story, Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, tells the story of the FLDS Church, which were originally located in what was then known as Short Creek, Arizona. It's on the southern border of Utah, and everything was going cool. They existed within the church, and then one day in the late 1800s, there was a statement published that basically said, hey, look, plural marriages, not really cool. We're not going to do this anymore. It was starting to get outlawed. It wasn't a good look. Rest of the people in the country are like, hey, man, it's
a bad look.
It's not a good look. What are you guys doing? You got more than one wife. What's the deal?
So we'll make a new religion, and we'll have 65 wives.
That's the thing about denominations. I mean, essentially they all believe in Jesus, as a savior, and they all believe a certain number of things similarity, but then when you denominate it out, there's so many different things about Christianity. It's just it's one man's version of what the message is, told 1,000 times again, denomination. So basically the FLDS said, whoa, man,
you're not taking our wives. You're not taking our wives.
We like the plural wives thing. And that's kind of where this whole thing started. They broke off and they do their own thing. And they basically believe that you need to have 3 wives, no less, a minimum of 3 wives.
The more you have, the closer you are to heaven.
So you got these guys that get into this thing, whether they're born or not, where that's their core belief. The goal is to get to 3 wives. Doesn't matter what they believe, the wives, because it's not about them. It's about the dude. It's about the guys. And that's where this whole thing starts. In my opinion, it's about equality and
It's a cult.
It definitely.
This one's a cult.
Yes. When you believe what they believe and how hard they believe it, definitely could be defined as such. And we will get into more of this walking on eggshells on this episode of Dark Side of the Stream next on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream. As you can see, we're calling each other brother husband Jay from now on. So if you're ever on the street and you see Jay or myself and you come up to us and you're like, hey, where's Jay? Please refer to my brother husband as brother husband Jay. And brother husband Joe, by the way, even though he's not here, we're bringing him into the fold because we don't want him to feel like he's not included. And since we're all married to each other, it looks like we're all getting into heaven.
Yeah, perfect. We're closer.
We found a way in, baby.
We branched off in our own church.
Screw what we did our whole lives. Yes. And what we got 3 husbands and we're in.
Well, how come the one dude had 65 wives?
Well, they weren't. What are you talking about? Warren or Ruin or the
85-year-old guy that was marrying 17-year-old girls.
So the whole thing about the plural marriage is the 3, whatever. But then you get these prophets. Essentially, it starts with the church head. I think his name was Leroy Johnson. He ran the church from 1954 to 1986. Now, mind you, the prophets are basically God speaks through them to the people. They believe that. They believe that these men are the ones that God is speaking through. What he says is the word of God. That literally, there's no question. That is the way it goes. And the only thing is, prophets aren't supposed to die. Well, Leroy Johnson, he died in 1986.
Yeah.
And then Ruin, who took over for him.
I'm the guy now. I'm the guy.
He's like, oh, wait, now I'm the prophet. So in 1986, this guy takes over and he goes till 2002. Well, he married a ton of women, including a couple young ones. Now, they weren't 12 years old and 14 years old like Warren Jeffs would do, and maybe more members of this church were doing, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But Ruin did like him young, not super young, but on the brink. Now, he eventually would have a stroke, and that's when one of his sons, Warren Jeffs, kind of took over, saw his opportunity, wouldn't leave his side, and at that point, at least to the ones that are out of this church, he took over.
Things went ultra haywire.
And then that's when things went really crazy.
I like the guy's brother who really didn't want any part of this. He was very cool on camera. He was like, I don't want any part of what they're doing.
Well, and that brother,
he ratted him out.
He was one of the ones that have been very vocal, but again, he got kicked out. A lot of these guys
didn't believe the BS.
Well, no, that or there were two things that were going on. One, they were being watched constantly. Like you hear from members in the beginning, even when Ruin was running things, how happy things were. They had books, they had access to TV. Of course, they wore long dresses and they kind of look colonial or whatever you want to call it, but they still had access to the outside world. They go on family trips, they played together, they prayed together. It seemed like it was okay. Now, I mean, yeah, there was, people with like 60 wives, whatever, that's their thing, but it didn't look like there was anything as far as nefarious going on. It really started with Warren Jeffs, who at the time, they were still, I believe, in Utah, or at least they called it the Crick, which I thought was hilarious. And then at a certain point, he's like, if the Olympics come to Salt Lake City, the end of the world is here.
That's the sign of the end of the world.
That's the sign. So we got to get the hell out, which that's like cult membership 101. Yep. Isolate your people. Yep. And that really, my friend, is where it starts. Started pulling books, access to TV, all that stuff. So back to what you said about his brother. Now you cut off their people. You cut off the information. There were people that said they had no idea who the president was. They had no idea what was going on in the world. And when we're talking about late 90s, early 2000s here,
I mean, brainwashing.
They probably didn't even know 9/11 even happened, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. Control your people, cut them off, and gaslight. That's what cult leaders do. And you're right on the money. But his brother, I think
I think he saw the BS and he's like, nah.
Could have been defiant, but again, he wasn't the only one. I mean, before.
He seems so normal and chill, though, this cat,
A lot of them did. Once they got out, they seem like normal people. And that's the thing that blew my mind is like, how do you believe that this is the voice of God coming from this man who just seems like he's saying one thing and living a complete another way? And we'll get to more of that Dark Side of the Stream next on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, brother husband intern and brother husband Jay in the studio discussing Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey on Netflix, the documentary about Warren Jeffs and the FLDS church. Now, as I was saying, before any of the nefarious like marrying of 14-year-old or younger girls to men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or whatever, the church was kicking young men out. Now, before we get into the sexual stuff, just from a human trafficking point of view, these godlike people, they had no use for too many men is a bad thing. Because when you're in a church and you're using
you want to be the pimp
as currency, you definitely want way more women than you want men. But the problem is when you're having 15 or 16 kids to each woman,
you're
going to have a lot of boys. Well, there was in the late 90s, early 2000s, a really big problem with all these young men who were homeless, just walking around Salt Lake City because they'd been kicked out of the FLDS church just for simply being a boy or being rebellious, not really following, questioning, doing what people do. So that was where I think this whole thing starts. And like, because you're like, well, why would you? I thought we're evil. You know, we're the people in the world that live a life of sin and all that
send
stuff.
The boys out there.
But you're kicking these kids out of your house. Like, okay, well, then I think Warren really saw what these guys were after. And that was more women, the more wives you had. So he treated these women like currency. His brother, as you mentioned, even went as so far as to say these women are treated like cattle. Yeah. And that just to me, like this thing has been happening for even still. There are members of the FLDS church that believe that Warren Jeffs is still the prophet and that we're all making this stuff up and this is all BS, when in fact they found a vault of every record kept of every person born and every assault taking place, because Warren Jeffs recorded everything and he saved it all because he's a moron, but he did. And they got tape. They got him dead to rights. I mean, they know this stuff happened. They've got literally recorded evidence. But again, we made all this up. It's fake. Doesn't exist because he's the prophet in it. Now, to answer your question, this is what I believe. When you are born, I always heard like, why does a kid scream when you take something away from them when they're small, right? Like their toy or their game or whatever, and they do something wrong and you're like, okay, that's it. You don't get this. Because to a child, that's their world. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Whatever that is, like they don't know, their world is so small to them. Like that is like the biggest thing in the world. So when you take a person who is born into this and you cut them off from the rest of the world, and they don't know anything about women's shelters or domestic violence or that this isn't right, what's happening isn't right. That's all they know. And they're taught from a very young age. I mean, hours and hours a day. Like if you don't follow these rules, you're damned to hell for the rest of your life. Right. If you don't do this, you're damned to hell and you're not going into the celestial heaven. You beat that into a kid so much, they don't know any different.
Oh, there we go. We're gone again.
Well, you got the circling thing. Let's see if we can get Jay back here while we take another break. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Yeah.
Brother, husband, intern, brother husband Jay back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream. You know, honestly, though, considering all the technical problems we've had with this one episode.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I'd say someone's trying to
Warren
stop
Jeffs
us.
is on us, man. The FLDS is on us.
Anyway, so we've almost made it to the end of this. There's so many different stories in this.
Sounds like if you watch it, you're going to get mad, though.
You're going to get very angry. There are some heartbreaking stories. They play some stuff that Warren did to young girls that as a parent, I would spend the rest of my life in jail if I could get my hands on someone that did this to my kid. But again, at the end of the day, these parents gave him up. You know, they were even when they went after Warren finally, and they went into the compound they moved to in Texas. A lot of these parents went out and Oprah had them on and it was like, they stole your children. This is awful. Oprah, dude. Great job. Great job doing your due diligence.
Oprah always finds a way
having
in
them
here.
on, giving them all these women, some of them were midwives to some of these teenage girls that were having kids. You have photos of them with these little girls that are literally having babies. And then some of these women actually had their children stolen from them by Warren Jeffs, taken to Texas without their knowledge. They go to school to pick them up in Arizona or wherever they were, and they're gone. Warren's taking these girls and they're now at the ranch in Texas. But now they're saying that the government's stolen them from them, which just It blows my
Yeah,
mind.
that's crazy, man.
It's gotten this far. Ultimately, Warren Jeffs will be in prison for the rest of his life. But that wasn't before he went on the lam with all of his wives, where he, by the way, went to Vegas and gambled, went to strip clubs, watched pornography.
Yeah.
Again,
Another fraud.
do what I say, not
Another
what I do.
fraud.
Getting $300,000 a week from his brothers. It's just a scam. It's a very hard watch. It's a very tough watch, but it'll make you get so angry, especially if you're a parent, about the fact that this exists and existed in our country, and that law enforcement in Utah just turned a blind eye to it and let it happen for decades and decades and decades. And had it not been for a 14-year-old bride who escaped and was brave enough to stand up in court
very brave girl.
against these people, none of this would have happened.
Still would have been going.
So watch it.
How many mono-colored colonial cloth outfits
dresses would I give it?
Yeah.
4, because it's a very crazy story. It's a story of strength.
3.5.
We don't even understand what fear is.
Oh, I know, man.
You and I, the day-to-day crap that makes us mad, that gets us upset, we don't understand what fear is. Those girls and those young women and boys, they understand it. And some of them were strong enough to do it. So, you know what? Again, I'll go back to what I started. I will never, ever, 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 ever make someone feel less for whatever it is that they believe in, whatever it is that makes them get up out of bed every single day. I don't care. But as long as you don't hurt somebody else, or you make someone feel like they're less or they're not good enough, you can do whatever you want. But if you start to assault and you start to do stuff like this, burn it all down, in my opinion. So yeah, 4.
All right. What's the next one?
Yeah, I guess it is my turn. Thank God we
Hopefully
made it.
it's something better, happier.
Well, I don't want to, because of how many problems we had with this religious themed couple weeks.
No.
Someone's squashing our signal. So we're gonna do this new documentary. It's got Kristen Chenoweth on it, who actress, Broadway musician. I guess she's from Oklahoma, where they had some Girl Scout murders happen around her area. The documentary is called Keeper of the Ashes, and it is on Hulu. So that's what we're watching, about the Girl Scouts in Oklahoma, I guess in the 70s or 80s or something. I don't know anything about it. So that's why
we're going in blind.
We're going in blind. Hopefully we don't have any problems with someone squashing our signal this next time. As always, you can watch these online, 1047thecave.com, on our 104.7 The Cave app, or Facebook every Thursday at 9 a.m. I'm Brother Husband Intern.
I'm Brother Husband Jay.
Reminding you, we watch movies
documentaries
so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.